Welcome back to Summit Point Raceway, the 2025 July MARRS presented by Belmont Classic Cars. We've got our special guests here this weekend. Northeast Division Road Racing Championship and the United States Touring Car Championship. This broadcast brought to you in part by our broadcasting partners, Courage Motorsports. I'm Rick Ginsburg, along with Spencer Gaynor. And next up, Spencer, it's our final race for March. And it is our open wheel and prototype racers. Pace car on the track. Pace lap has begun. Let's run down the starting order. Starting on pole today with qualifying time of 1:11.073. Your race winner in FE2 from yesterday, Gian Bufamonte, in the Alliance Autosport machine out of Naperville, Ohio, starting on the outside of the front row. From Grand River, New York, in the Motion Dynamics entry, it's Jason Conzo. Then we got Jonathan Weisheit in the number 67 JK Technologies FE2 machine. He'll start third alongside Paul Macaruccia out of Randolph, New Jersey in his Prototype 2 at Radical SR3. Then we got Jason Fraley in his West Racing WR1000. He will start in 5th position. That is also a P2 car. Then we got Paul Omachinski, also P2, driving the Sport 04D. He's out of Burlington, Connecticut, starting 6th. Jacob King, will start 7th today. He's driving the number 122 Ray GR out of Franklinville, New Jersey. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. With Wayne Nicolette, your Club Ford pole sitter, starting 8th. Wayne is in the Rack Engines Exhibits.net 1973 Cobra T340. Mark Walton will start 9th. He's in the number 22 Rack Engines Crossley 35F. That's another Ford machine. With John Vidovich in the number 28 Formula F Reynard RF22. That's the Spirited Solutions machine, starting 10th. Starting 11th is Jeff Baskin. He is in a Van Diemen Formula Continental. He's out of Moyock, North Carolina. With Harrison Southworth scheduled to start 12th today in the number 73 QR Invader. Ray Carmody racing in the number 81 Mysterian M2 Formula V out of Horseheads, New York, scheduled to start 13th. And then John Ferreira out of Londonderry, New Hampshire, in his former EV3. That is the That Autosport machine, and he will start 14th. As the field here, Spencer, starts to form up, coming out of turn 8, lights are out on the pace car. We should go green this time around.
I hope at least this next time by, we have to go again. We have to lay off this time.
Yeah, well, we did. We saw that a couple times yesterday, so I wouldn't put it past our starters, but that obviously depends very much on what they see. Pace car on the pit lane, turning things over to Bufamonte out of Naperville, Illinois. Very young, talented driver, both in Trans Am and TA2, GT2 as well. Now is in FE2, where he took the win yesterday over Conzo, who spent some time in the GB4, that's Formula FIA F4 class in the UK, as the green flag flies and they run down to turn 1. Bufamonte getting a great start over Conzo, is able to pull right across the front of Conzo now to take the lead. Actually, looking to see if that is the Bufamonte car or if it is the Conzo car. No, as a matter of fact, that is Jonathan Weisheit tucked in the 2nd place, as Jason Conzo did not take the green flag. So it's Bufamonte and Weisheit in FE2. Paul Macaruccia in that white Radical SR3. He's your P2 leader, with Jason Fraley in the blue 142 West. Paul Omachinski in the store directly behind. And then we'll get to the Club Fords and Formula Fords here in just a few moments.
Yeah, first lap underway. You're already seeing what typically happens in class. You're seeing cars begin to spread out very, very quickly. Find the lines that they want to run over anybody else, and then we'll just see who we can do as they come around turn 10.
All right. We mentioned that Jake King was racing in a Formula F Ray GR chassis. He was scheduled to run in the Club Ford class this weekend, Spencer, but had some engine issues. Remember, we experienced a lot of engine issues in that same chassis last week at the U.S. Majors Tour in New Jersey.
Top and one, he has recovered. Looks like he went right into the grass. back on.
Kept the wheel rolling, and that was Bufamonte, your pole sitter today. So that now will move Jonathan Weisheit to the lead, and Macarucha and the Radical now right tucked under the wing of Gian Bufamonte. Bufamonte's going to want to take a couple corners to get the car back underneath him, especially with the wet grass and gravel on the side of the track. Come right back on the pavement, your tires are still going to be wet, and you're not going to have a little grip, at least initially. So he's going to try to get that car back up to speed first.
Yeah, it's like we were talking about at the beginning of the game, Greg. We were talking about how after all the rain that was yesterday, the track has definitely dried out. It's definitely dried out, and it's most dry this current race, having had 3-4 race groups drive on it at this point. The grass does not dry the same way, not to mention there are cars. So it will dry out slower, and a lot of the moisture will remain. So even just putting a couple of tires off into that wet area can very much change the dynamics of the car coming around a track like this.
As we watch now, that is Paul Macarucha in the number 26 Radical. He is your leader in the Prototype 2 class with Jason Fraley just behind. Now, yesterday, Spencer, that was a great race to watch as Fraley had jumped out, and again, a much shorter race than this, only 15 laps versus 20 laps. But Fraley had jumped out to an early lead, and what we saw was that West chassis with a Suzuki motor behind it. It was very quick in a straight line, much quicker than Macarucha's Radical. The difference was the Radical, because of the amount of downforce that that chassis generates and a shorter wheelbase, much more capable car in the more difficult handling areas, of course, like the bottom half, like going down into turn 5 into the carousel area where you want to be able to get good grip and continue to feed the throttle. And it took 3/4 of the race, actually I think it was 12 to 15 laps for him to find his way around finally to West. And once he did, he just practically drove away. It was, if he was able to lead West going down into the carousel, then you knew that West was never going to be able to get close enough to fight for the lead again. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, pretty much word for word diagram what happened there. But one thing I want to ask you, Greg, is always, you know, like you said, my dad's been racing for a very long time. We usually stuck to, you know, Miatas and stuff like that, SSM, SM, a little bit of STL, and always been fascinated by open wheel driving. It seems like, you know, it's still 4 wheels and an engine at the end of the day, but it feels like it's a very different dynamic. Not to mention, you just watching the cars go around the track. You know, we talk about big bore being a class with a lot of different cars going around, even small bore. You look to your right, you got a Corvette. You look to your left, you got a box car. You get a bunch of different stuff going around the track. But even here, you can see some cars are pure open wheel. You can see the rubber burning on the pavement, and some have like a car going through the street that actually just spun into turn 6 camera.
Uh-oh.
He's there, I promise.
Oh yeah, and that is one of our 3 prototype machines. I believe that's Paul Omachinsky in the store 04D. The time for our camera to flip out. We'll get the.
He spun through the static. It was fascinating.
Yes, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Omachinsky. As we've got now going into turn 1, both Macarucha and Fraley are number 1 and number 2 prototype cars. You know, the big thing that you have with these cars, besides being much lighter, and everything that comes with lightness and maneuverability, is that you have, and it isn't just the case with the open wheel cars. I mean, some of the GT cars and the two-frame cars, you have a lot of capability as far as suspension adjustments. And in this group in particular, the Formula Fs, the Club Fords, they rely still, much like a closed-top car, on mechanical grip and not necessarily downforce from the body. But when you add in something like the Prototype 2s or the FE2s or Formula Atlantics and Continentals that have front wings or rear wings, add in the adjustability that you have for aero and trying to determine and using that aero to your advantage to maybe increase or decrease oversteer or understeer, to trim out the rear wing to give you more top speed versus more grip in the corners. These are all things that a lot of the tin top cars you don't have. There are a lot of them in the closed wheel cars that do have the wings and you have the adjustability and what have you as well. But still, it's a very different, it's a much more raw feel being behind the wheel of these cars.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can hardly imagine driving without having a roof over my head. So seeing these guys go out here with, just their helmets and the air in front of them, it's definitely a more, call it more 4D experience driving these kind of cars. But I also think it's interesting how modular this particular class is. Like I was saying, I imagine there are definitely still some rules and enforcements about what can be done, but it's not as closely as enforced as something like an SSM or an SM class where the cars have to be within, like dyno to be within RPMs or horsepower of each other. You can really go into a class like this and decide what works better for you in particular. You want a little more pull in the car, you want a little more downforce, you want a car that moves better in the turn, in the straightaway. It feels like you can really do not whatever your heart desires. The SCC will put a few restrictions on you. But SCC can be Santa Claus sometimes. It does feel like this is definitely a class that can get away with it whatever you want on the Christmas tree.
There you go. All right, so Guile, the car guy in the chat, says Visceral comes to mind for open cockpit racing. I think both he and I used that same word. I think I might have actually said Visceral.
Last I heard from the stewards, we're just going to catch up on that white car that's still out on the outside of 6. The steward had announced a standing yellow 85 alert flyers of that car there. So you may see, it's maybe hard to tell that cars are going slower through 5 considering the way 5 operates on a baseline, but that is currently what's happening. Our turn 5 camera, unfortunately, is not working, so we can't quite show it to you. But either way, we just know that car's out there and they are doing necessities.
Yeah, and that is also because that turn 5 corner station is the first one for that incident. That is technically before you get to turn 7 stand, so they need to hold that out there.
That's their jurisdiction.
Yeah, exactly, and the corner workers there need to know about it because it's very hard for them to see all the way over to where that car is currently placed. And that indeed, as we mentioned, is Paul Kuczynski out of Burlington, Connecticut in his P2 Storm. starting to stretch out at this point. So we'll pick out some of the racers here. As there is that is the Fraley machine. Jason Fraley's west up to R1000 out of Wellsville, Pennsylvania, running second in prototype 2 between after Paul Macarucci's Radical, and the gap now between those two cars, Spencer, almost a quarter of a second, about a quarter of a second, 15 seconds at this point. Jonathan Weisheit starting to close things down a little bit, though. I'll tell you, Weisheit running in the low 13s, almost 5 seconds faster than Jason Fraley's prototype ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to show. I mean, honestly, watching a race, even from like these cameras, even from the tower, it's often hard to describe just how fast these cars really are going. I mean, I've done practice days, I've done stuff in Miatas are the fastest cars that run on this track. But just being in the car is a totally different experience. Like, it feels like you're going 100 miles an hour, and I was pulling like 140. And it just goes to show you how fast this particular class goes, because the average lap time, like I mentioned, for instance, just about like the average overall classes, is between like 130, 135, I think, on an entire average of every car that races here. These guys are pulling 112s, 115. That's your top three. Your top three best lap times in position 1, 2, and 3, respectively, are a minute and 12 seconds, a minute and 15 seconds, a minute 15 and 5 hundredths of a second. And those are all cars who have a 19-second gap, 15-second gap. So it's hard to kind of maybe see in respect to each other how fast these cars are going because they're so far apart. But these guys are flying on the track right now. Car is still out there. They probably believe that car is in a dangerous position in our
to leave it there. Yeah, if they were going to bring it back during the session, I think they probably would have done it 3 or 4 laps ago. So, yeah, it looks as though Paul Obuchinski is going to have, from where that car is placed, he's not going to have a great view of today's race.
Kind of slightly down, though. It's hard to see in that camera, but that is if we actually put it back in, control that. Kind of see in that that is
it drops off.
If 5 is the bottom of the track, 6 is the beginning back up to the top, the beginning kind of ramp up a little bit, and the curbing on the left, on the driver's left, and around to the 6th side of that turn actually is kind of angled up slightly, and so when you drop off that side of the track, you really drop down into the downward side. Talk a lot about Summit Point being a lot about just, we say, flow track. It's got a great flow state, a great flow to it. We love the word flow here, and I think this is one of the few classes where they really get to execute on flow. We talked about how the cars really start to distance themselves out. We talked about the distances like from 1 to 2, which is 27 seconds, from 3 it's 16, and then so on and so forth. So there isn't a lot of door-to-door action in this race and on the whole, usually with a class like this. So it really comes down to how well can you execute on this, on a track like this with the flow, and take your marks at the same time. Because if you've raced here before, you probably know the reason we talk about flow is because everything builds on itself. Everything is a domino that kind of tips itself towards a better lap time. If you can have a everything from at least 5 all the way back to the straightaway. You wouldn't think having a bad 5 makes a difference. You know, if I had a bad 5, I'll still have a great 6, 7, 8, 9, it'll be good. But having a good 5 and then a good 6, 7, 8, 9 is a massive difference. So it's not just like these cars are hitting a good lap. And once in a while, those good laps are the result of an entire 10-turn, 2-mile track run of well execution.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Spencer, we teach folks in driver school here to be precise. And your fastest racers are incredibly precise because you will lose a tenth or a couple hundredths at every corner. And it's not just running wide of an apex. It can be braking a little bit too hard. It can be getting back on the throttle a little bit more slowly than some of your competitors. And if you lose a tenth here, a tenth there, a couple hundredths here, a couple hundredths there, 10 times, 10 different corners around this racetrack, you know, over the course of a 20-lap race, you could end up, you know, 10 or 20 seconds back from the leader in your class.
That's right. Speaking of our leader and speaking of tenths, Jeff Cavante sets his fastest lap of the race currently at 1:11.763, cutting off currently quarter hundredth to 250,000 second off that time. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but he's getting faster in that very fastest lap of the race.
That's right. Hey, I want to welcome and thank Jordy Fike for joining the chat. And Jordy's right. Mom will not allow me to play in my other racing games later on in the week if you don't give us a bunch of likes here on YouTube. And tell you what, if you want, besides putting in the chat here, if you put stuff in the comment section, that actually helps YouTube push us up in their algorithm and get us promoted with other racing enthusiasts. So go do that as well. I may even have my mom.
Whatever it takes, baby.
That's right. Except the teacher where it is. All right, here we've got 4 laps remaining. Got right another car. That's that is Jonathan. Well, it's Jonathan Weisheit, who was running fourth. Again, Weisheit had put the car in, and he's high-sided on the curbing there. And Spencer with now 2 laps to go as Bufamonte comes across the start-finish line. There's young Gian. Now 2 laps to go. We'll see. Hopefully we can keep this race going, but we may end up under caution here.
Yeah, unlike that white car that is pretty ways out off the track. I mean, anyone can see that car is almost still on the asphalt there, and that is like we said before, we usually don't mind if they're in a bad place, but we just leave them where they're not in danger of racers. That is a rough place to be, considering he's just about at the apex of 6 where people would like to be.
Now, luckily, most of the racers have now seen Marquez. And so if he's still there, it should not be a surprise. And it sounds as though we're going to finish this race under green. Obviously, low caution over turn 5, covering the white shite number 67 FE2 champion Monte. Now we'll see him coming out of the final corners here in just a moment.
There he is.
And he is coming up out of turn 10 now. Taking the win both overall and in FE2, it is Gian Bucamonte. Wayne Nicolette takes the checker. He'll take the win in Club Ford over Mark Walthu. Just wait for our remaining racers to cross the line. A couple of seconds here, we'll see Paul Macarucha in his radical SR3 here, perhaps momentarily, looking to pick up his second class win of the weekend. Third overall yesterday. As he comes out of turn 10 now, he will finish second overall today. So congratulations to the Randolph, New Jersey racer, your P2 winner.